Hello, I hope you're having a fantastic time. Much appreciation for joining me for a comprehensive, informative and bold bulletin Maisha Prime News, where we bring you the truth with our aim being to inform and educate you on stories making headlines in Kenya and beyond. My name is Maisha. Coming up.
Wewe mtu wa tiagas, wewe polisi, wacha kurusha tiagas kwa wananchi wewe. Wachana na tiagas wewe polisi. Wachana na tiagas kabisa wewe.
Raila's rally disrupted by goons in Kiambu County. And
we want to categorically state that we, the undersigned, will not be participating in the planned demonstrations. We equally urge our constituents to do likewise.
7 ODM MPs say they will not attend Raila's Monday protests. Plus,
Raila ana nia mzuri na Wakenya. Maana kuimagine kuingia state out kutoa president it amount to treason kulingana na sheria.
Njuri Ncheke asked Raila Odinga to call off his planned State House March mass action, warning of a possible bloodbath. Alright, welcome on board. President William Ruto has backed calls to review the East African Community Treaty. Speaking on Friday, the head of state said there were various areas that needed to be reviewed. The president said many developments have taken place and should be captured in the founding law. Ruto was responding to the IALA Speaker Joseph Nkakiturimana's request for the review of the EAC Treaty. Our very own Agadias Ikoha reports.
President William Ruto has commended the progress the East African community has made since it was established nearly 25 years ago. However, he said it was time to review the treaty to conform to modern day changes. He said the East African community started as a 3-member bloc comprising Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, but has since grown to 7 members. The countries that have joined the regional bloc after its founding are Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Speaking when he met the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Mr. Joseph Nkakiturimana, at State House Nairobi, President Ruto pointed that the bloc must therefore build enough capacity required by a huge regional bloc. EALA is the legislative arm of the East African community. Responding to the Speaker's request for a review of the East African Community Treaty, the President agreed that the many developments that have taken place should be captured in the founding law. The President said, and I quote, "It is time to look at the treaty, especially over languages used at East African Legislative Assembly. Of course, Kiswahili will continue playing a very big role in the Assembly." End of quote. He also said work has begun on the need to give East African Legislative Assembly financial autonomy like regional parliaments. The Speaker thanked the President for the support the Kenyan East African Legislative Assembly chapter gave him during his election. And I quote, "Kenya vote was the most decisive during my election." End of quote. He said the challenges facing East African Legislative Assembly include lack of autonomous, budget, and temporary staff, some of whom have worked for 20 years. Also at the meeting was East African Community Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano. The Speaker was accompanied by Kenya East African Legislative Assembly MPs Hassan Omar, Kanini Kega, and Zipora Kering, and East African Legislative Assembly Deputy Clerk John Mwatega. Agadias Ikoha, Maisha Prime News.
Thank you so much, Agadias Ikoha. Police officers in Kiambu town on Friday were forced to lob tear gas canisters in an effort to restore order after an Azimio la Umoja rally was disrupted. The cause of the disorder witnessed at the rally was not established clearly amid claims that were plans to cause disruption. In his speech, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga condemned the move, maintaining that his side will remain resilient despite attempts to stop them. Our very own Faith Msimbi reports.
Police officers in Kiambu town on Friday, March 17th, lobbed tear gas canisters in efforts to restore order after an Azimio la Umoja rally was disrupted.
Uhuru wa tatu ukija, tutakumbuka ulianzia Kiambu, tear gas ya kwanza tumeonja hapa Kiambu. Na walitaka eti mutoroke, musisimame tuambie ukweli. Na wauliza watu wa Kiambu, ni ukweli unga umepanda ama si ukweli?
Azimio leaders were addressing a roadside rally when the incident occurred to cause the disruption. The cause of the disorder witnessed at the rally was not established clearly amid claims that there were plans to cause disruptions.
Wewe mtu wa tear gas, wewe polisi, wacha kurusha tear gas kwa wananchi wewe. Wachana na tear gas wewe polisi. Wachana na tear gas kabisa wewe. Hii mkutano ni amani. Hii mkutano ni amani wewe.
Yani askari polisi anatupia former prime minister tear gas. Anatumia wananchi wasio na shida yoyote tear gas. Yule officer today, yule officer wa polisi ambaye ako in charge of the rest, huyo tunataka jina yake directly ipelekwe Hague mapema.
Na sisi tuko hapa kuambia Ruto, hata ukiturushia tear gas, kama Jumatatu bei ya unga haishuki, Ruto must. Kama Jumatatu bei ya stima haishuki, Ruto must.
In his speech, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga condemned the move, maintaining that his side will remain resilient despite attempts to stop them.
Tuko na haki kama wa Kenya kusema enough is. Tumesema tutakutana kama wa Kenya, tutaongea pamoja. Sawa sawa? Sawa. Nataka nione hapa Jumatatu tuko Nairobi. Wangapi watakuja nione mkono?
Fellow Azimio leaders also joined in the condemnation of the tear gas incident, whilst maintaining that their quest for reforms was unstoppable.
Kama sio maandamano, hii katiba hatungekuwa nayo. Musikubali tuwekwe kwa chupa na mtu na tufunikwe na tuwekwe baharini. Wakati umefika na hatuulizi ruhusa, katiba imetupatia ruhusa. Ruhusa haitoki kwa Ruto na haki yangu haitoki kwa Ruto. Inatoka kwa katiba ya Kenya.
Lazima sasa ieleweke. Hii vijana ambayo wanakaa bure bila kazi, hata sio bure wote tunavuta bangi wote. Kwa sababu shida inaleta nini? Imeumia.
Meanwhile, preparations for the Azimio la Umoja coalition rally planned in Githurai were momentarily disrupted after a group of rowdy youth dismantled the dice.
Kwa hivyo hawa watu wanadanganya wa Kenya. Ndio sababu tunasema enough is. Wakati imewadia ya mjinga kurevuka. Mwerevu yuko wapi? Jamaa walisema ya kwamba wajinga waliisha Kenya. Si wanasema wajinga waliisha Kenya? Jana aliteua ma-CS mliona hayo? Kwa hiyo ma-CS mliona hasla huko?
The Azimio caravan was said to hold a rally in the region after traversing several towns in Kiambu County in their sustained calls for mass action. For Maisha Prime News, Maisha Television, I'm Simbi Faith.
Much appreciation Faith Msimbi. Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga's call for mass action on Monday 20th, 2023 coincides with similar activities by opposition parties in other African countries. In what is seemingly growing into pockets of demonstration across African democracies, the nature of the protest varies on the basis of issues. Reader Kering Chebet reports.
Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga's call for mass action on Monday, March 20th, 2023 coincides with similar activities by opposition parties in other African countries.
Within 14 days, we shall lead Kenya.
In what is seemingly growing into pockets of demonstrations across African democracies, the nature of the protest varies on the basis of issues.
Nipigwe teke sitarudi nyuma, o nipigwe teke.
In Kenya, the opposition has planned a countrywide mass action which seeks to compel the government to lower the cost of living.
Kani wacha niwaulize watu wa Nakuru. Iko unga ya polisi na raia? Iko mafuta ya polisi na raia?
Opposition chief Raila Odinga said the demonstrations will be peaceful, as he also urged participants to conduct themselves in an orderly manner.
Nataka wafanyabiashara wa Kikuyu wasiwe na wasiwasi yoyote. Usihangaishwe na hiyo porojo. Sisi tutalinda biashara ya kila mtu. Wakikuyu ni wa Kenya. Tuna Kikuyu walinipigia mimi kura mingi zaidi. Sisi hatuwezi kuharibu biashara ya mtu yoyote.
President William Ruto has warned the opposition against holding unlawful protests, saying Kenya is a country governed by the rule of law.
Kama sisi wote jameni tunakubali sheria, tunaamini katiba, tunaamini vitengo ile imetengenezwa na katiba, lakini mtu mmoja anasema yeye haamini sheria, haamini katiba, ati yako na sheria yake, yeye anatengeneza peke yake, ile anataka ndio inakuwa sheria ya Kenya. Na tusipokubaliana na yeye, ati mpaka ametuambia ati uchaguzi haiamuliwi na IBC, ati uchaguzi inaamuliwa na sijui whistleblower.
In Nigeria,
APC have influenced INEC, and we can see results have been changed.
the country is facing a leadership transition following the February 25th presidential and National Assembly elections that saw the All Progressive Congress APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu declared winner in the tightly contested poll.
It's not as if we believe that that is a true representation of the will of the electorate of Lagos. We know, and our agents know, and the INEC knows, and the Nigerian public knows, that the margin of victory is substantially more than what was reported.
His closest rival and Nigeria's opposition leader Atiku Abubakar, who came second, has led a street protest with his supporters in tow disputing the election results.
The INEC and the APC decided to select who they wanted. That was not an election. That is why we're here today.
With Tinubu set to take over from President Muhammadu Buhari on May 29th, 2023, the opposition parties, among them APC and Peter Obi's Labour Party, have accused the country's electoral body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, of overseeing an exercise marred with massive vote rigging.
What is difficult in the INEC chairman showing the uploaded results so that we can compare and interrogate that.
Still in West Africa, demonstrations have become the order of the day in the Gambia, thanks to runaway corruption and pilferage of public resources. It appears that the country is still reeling from the effects of the despotic rule of former President Yahya Jammeh. His 22-year iron fist rule in the country saw the government announce that it will prosecute its former leader for murder, rape, torture and other alleged crimes. His stint in power from July 1994 to January 2017, saw the country crawl sluggishly development-wise. In neighboring Senegal, echoes of Jammeh's rule in the Gambia still linger in the minds of many, a similarity that was birthed by the mass exit of Gambians to Senegal following extensive human rights abuses. With many victims of Jammeh's rule having fled to the neighboring country, Senegalese citizens have a concern of their own. The incumbent President Macky Sall is possibly eyeing a third term in office, a move that has irked the country's opposition ahead of the 2024 elections. Droves of opposition supporters have held demonstrations in the West African country in solidarity with their leader Ousmane Sonko, gathered in the capital Dakar. The protest came ahead of the determination of a libel case in which Sonko accused the country's tourism minister Mame Mbaye Nyang of alleged embezzlement. Ousmane Sonko is also facing rape and alleged death threats charges against him over a reported 2021 incident pitting him against a beauty salon employee. His supporters have furthered the premise that 61-year-old President Sall has an agenda of weakening the opposition. On the eve of Sonko's trial, the authorities in Senegal banned rallies even as they manned Sonko's Dakar home. Further down south, the economic freedom fighter EFF is pushing for what it termed as a nationwide shutdown, with South Africa's Red Beret movement accusing the President Cyril Ramaphosa-led administration of a growing list of challenges plaguing the country.
We don't want to be told that we'll get land in 2030. We don't want to be told that we'll get jobs in 2030. We want jobs now. We are hungry now. We want to eat now.
The president has rubbished the planned demos, saying South Africa will not allow anarchy and disorder.
And I wanted to say very clearly, disorder and anarchy will not be allowed in South Africa. We will not allow those who want to spread anarchy to do what they like here in South Africa. We are a constitutional democracy. Yesterday we had a meeting of our National Security Council and we discussed this. And the security forces of our country are going to defend our people. They are going to make sure that intimidation, anarchy and disorder does not prevail. But those who want to protest, by all means, you protest peacefully. But if you are going to restrict the rights of other people, if you are going to coerce them, if you are going to intimidate them and unleash violence, our security forces are going to defend the people of South Africa.
On his part, EFF leader Julius Malema stated that Monday, March 20th, 2023 event is a mere expression of dissatisfaction with Ramaphosa's rule.
The DA has taken a decision to defend Ramaphosa and is masquerading as protecting business and the economy of South Africa, which is not true. Because the DA in its papers, and you are a journalist, you read, you should have read those papers by now. They are not demanding the interdict. They are not interdicting the protest. They are saying they are interdicting violence and intimidation, which has never happened. How do you interdict non-existing thing? That DA of yours has actually approved the EFF's protest in Western Cape and in the Cape Metro in particular. How do you approve something today and tomorrow want to appear on TV as if you are not going to allow this type of a protest to happen? They've approved it. So everything else John was doing yesterday was just a PR to demonstrate to his funders that He's doing something in defense of Ramaphosa.
This follows calls from the governing African National Congress ANC, which downplayed the push for disruption of South Africa's economic workings come Monday, terming it as a recipe for anarchy. For Maisha Prime, Maisha Television, I'm Rida Kering Chebet.
Much appreciation, Rida Kering Chebet. 7 ODM MPs, Gideon Ochanda, Mark Nyamita, Karoli Omondi, Paul Abor, Elisha Odhiambo, Felix Jalango, and Senator Tom Ojenda declared they will not attend Monday demos. They said they firmly believe that the current economic challenges Kenyans are facing will not be resolved by political confrontations and other forms of political partnership.
Let me begin by recording the apologies of Honorable Gideon Ochanda of Bondo and Honorable Mark Nyamita of Uriri. They've just left. They had some engagements and they are to fly out of town. We, the undersigned elected representatives from Nyanza, wish to make the following statement. We acknowledge the right of every citizen or group of citizens to picket and hold demonstrations as an expression of their political aspirations. We appreciate that such actions are essential to the advancement of our democracy, and it is our firm belief that such demonstrations must be peaceful and orderly and not injure the rights and property of others. We therefore wish to encourage all Kenyans who wish to participate in the demonstrations planned for next week to do so peacefully and in a manner that strengthens democratic rule and does not encourage anarchy and breakdown of law and order. We want to categorically state that we, the undersigned, will not be participating in the planned demonstrations. We equally urge our constituents to do likewise. We encourage those who will join the demonstrations to return to their normal economic and social activities as soon as possible, especially those who are engaged in agriculture or some form of farming, to take advantage of the current rains to plow and plant. We firmly believe that the current economic challenges facing Kenya will not be resolved by political confrontation and other forms of political partisanship. It is time to have a national economic dialogue to find solutions to our collective economic challenges. Let our political competition be at the level of competing economic ideas. We trust that reason will prevail amongst the political leadership of Kenya, and God will give us the wisdom to find the path to lasting peace and harmony in Kenya. Finally, we welcome the planned presidential visit to Migori County next week to launch several development projects and to engage the people on government projects. Thank you very much. Signed by Honorable Gideon Ochanda, Honorable Mark Nyamita, Honorable Karoli Omondi, Honorable Paul Abor, Honorable Elisha Odhiambo, Honorable Felix Jalango, and Senator Tom Ojenda. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and may you have a good...
A movement by the name People for People is now urging the government and the Kenya... A movement by the name People for People is now urging the government and the Azimio One Kenya coalition to engage in dialogue and have amicable solution. While holding demonstration in the Nairobi CBD, the movement has called out the youth in Kenya to cease from being the main engine of any protest and focus on building the country. Elsewhere, a section of Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization in Nairobi County are now calling on the opposition leader Raila Odinga to call off the planned countrywide street protests on Monday. The leader claims the protest will bring solution to food prices and economic improvement, but will instead escalate lawlessness in the country.
Hakuna pahali wameenda wakakaa chini, hatujaona kikao chochote. Wamekaa chini wakasema sasa tunataka unga ianguke ama tunataka hii, hatujawaona. Tunawaonaga kwa mikutano ya hadhara na kwa runinga na kila mahali. Hakuna pahali wameitisha vikao. Na tena vikao vyovyote vyenye vitaitishwa, viitishwa vikao vyenye viko ndani ya katiba. Na maendeleo maandamano ikiwemo iitishwe maandamano genuine
iende mbele. Na sisi kama wamama, hawa wanaume sisi ndio tunararanga na wao. Wanaume watoto ndio sisi tunawapikia. Kwa hivyo sisi hakuna watoto wetu tutakumbali watoke kwa maandamano. Mambo ingine wanasema wataenda State House. State House sio mende inakaa huko, ni serikali ile imechaguliwa.
Ongezea tena nataka kusema huyu mzee mwenye maandamano tunamuomba kabisa. Maandamano kama ni maandamano anataka apitie bunge. Siko ndio sheria inatengenezango ama namna gani? Na Jumatatu ni siku ya wazazi kurudisha watoto yao shule. Kwa hivyo sisi tunasema na tunamuomba kabisa kama ni mtu akusikia hiyo maandamano awachane naye katakata. Na presidenti wetu tunamwambia tuko nyuma yake. Wamama wote wa Nairobi na Kenya mzima.
And also we need food, so the government should do something about it. Watu wenye wanaumia sasa uko Turkana, watu wanakufa na njaa. What is the government doing about it? Wakenya wali contribute pesa. Hizo pesa nani anazitumia sasa? Hatujui. Wanawake wanaumia. Maandamano haitatusaidia sisi kama Wakenya, sisi kama wanawake. Watoto wetu ndio wataumia. So tunasema ya kwamba maandamano hatutaki, sisi tunataka amani. Tunataka amani nchini mwetu.
Kwa hivyo sisi, hii sio sauti ya mwanasiasa, hii sio sauti ya Kenya Kwanza, sio sauti ya ODM ama Azimio. Hii ni sauti ya Mkenya mwenye meteseka, sauti ya Mkenya mwenye hana chakula, sauti ya Mkenya mwenye hana kazi, ni sauti ya Mkenya mwenye hana future.
Sisi kama vijana tumekuwa tukimtumia vibaya na hawa wanasiasa. Ikuwe ni mrengo gani, lazima ategemee kijana ndio lengo lake lifike. Tumechoka.
Mtu kama Raila, Ruto na Uhuru, amunjui unga ni 220 na kitu, amunjui, musikie huruma. Amuonagi watu wanauawa huko, musikie huruma, mkimbie huko muulize nani anaua watu, ni huyu na huyu na huyu. Hao muue hao ama mumanjue venye mutaando hao watu. Kila siku wa Kenya wanalia kwa nini? Tangu 1963 tunalia nini? Hapana, please. Mimi naongea kama Mkenya. President mmoja tu anjitole. Na kama ni wewe Ruto, angalia Magufuli vile alifanya Tanzania. Uoni alifanya vizuri?
We contribute about 75%, 65% of the total population. Lakini sisi ndio tunaumia. Angalia wale graduates wako wote huku nje. Hawana makazi. Wanatembea huku. Hawana makazi. Kwa nini? Na serikali iko. Opposition iko. Inafanya nini? Tunataka sauti yetu kama vijana isikizwe.
And Revered Meru Council of Elders Njuri Ncheke has asked Raila Odinga to call off his planned State House march mass action, warning of possible bloodbath. The council warned Raila that if he tries to force his way to State House with his supporters to allegedly reclaim his stolen victory, the country will go to the dogs.
The Njuri Njeke elders have pleaded with the Azimio leader Raila Odinga over the planned demos on 20th March 2023, saying storming State House will lead to loss of lives as it amounts to treason.
Ile kazi wanafanya wakisema ati ni maandamano kwa maana tuko na uhuru wa maandamano Kenya, atuoni kitufanyia mambo mazuri Kenya. Kusema ati wataenda State House kumtoa rais State House, rais ambaye amechaguliwa na Wakenya. Raila mwenyewe akapeleka malalamiko na timu yake na makaratasi ya roli mzima. Akapeleka kotini kaamua na akakubali uamuzi. Baada ya miezi 4 amesibuka kusema ati yeye ndiye rais. Anataka kuingia Ikulu ama State House na nguvu, akitumia jina maandamano. Tunaambia Wakenya hivi, Raila ana nia mzuri na Wakenya. Maana kuimagine kuingia State House kutoa president, it amount to treason. It amount to treason kulingana na sheria.
Speaking on Friday, March 17th, the elders urged the Azimio camp to stop the demonstration since it would lead to chaos, destruction of properties and loss of lives.
Na kuenda kumtoa rais si karatasi kutoa kwa kitabu, hapo watu watakufa. Na wale wanaongozwa na Raila wengine wajui kadhabu ya kuingia State House bila ruhusa ama kutumia nguvu kuingia State House. Anataka wana Kenya wakufe na properties za watu siangamishwe.
They termed the Azimio's claim of getting back their victory as injustice to Kenyans who voted peacefully on August, asking them to step down until President Ruto's term is done.
Tunamuomba kwa heshima kuu kama mzee Raila Amolo Odinga, unatusikia mkiandamana na Kalonzo Musyoka, iwa na Martha Karua, you are doing injustice to Kenyans. Please step out.
The Njuri Njeke elders insisted that President Ruto won the election, asking Raila to call for them for an advice.
Muturie, mungoje atamu ya raisi Daktari William Samoei Ruto ikiisha, ukitangazwa campaign, muingie kupiga campaign. Hatutaki kusikia mambo ya maandamano. Na tunasihi wa Kenya wenzetu, tafadhali ambieni watoto wenu wote watoke kwa hiyo maandamano. Hakuna pahali tunapelekwa na Raila na maandamano. Hiyo maandamano si maandamano ya kuleta usuri Kenya, si maandamano ya kuleta amani Kenya, ni maandamano ya kumaliza nchi ya Kenya.
Mambo ya kuita watu nje. Sisi tukiwa watu wa Tharaka Nithi tumeungana na Meru County na tunakataa hiyo. Sisi watu wa Stronghold Tharaka Nithi tumekataa hiyo maneno. Watu wasitoke nje sababu rais wetu tulitoka tarehe 9 na tukamchagua na kila mtu aliona tukimchagua mchana.
Kapsabet Anglican Bishop Paul Koril also led religious leaders from Nandi County to call on Azimio leader to back down on planned demonstrations.
Pia Wakenya wadumishe amani. Hata baada ya siku hiyo wajiepushe na neno lolote lile ambalo laweza kufuruga amani. Kama mambo ambayo yanaweza kuleta utata, tungependa Wakenya wote wadumishe amani, wakae katika amani, na tunaomba kwamba tupatie serikali hiyo ambao Mungu ametupatia kwa amani nafasi waongoze na wafanya majukumu ambao walituahidi, tukiwaombea na kuwaunga mkono.
Naomba upinzani, tafadhali tunahitaji utulivu. Hata mambo hii wameitisha ya maandamano, tunaomba ya kwamba tafadhali sana waja tumbe nafasi Mungu aweze kutengeneza nchi hii. Na hiyo ndio ombi letu ya kwamba kama kuna jambo lolote waja waweke nafasi nzuri ya kusemezana. Mungu mwenyewe anasema njoni tusemezane.
Tunaomba viongozi wetu kwanza matamushi yao ya matamushi ya kuboresha wa Kenya, matamushi ya amani, si ya chuki, si ya binafsi, bali matamushi ambayo yanaleta umoja na amani katika nchi ya Kenya au katika kaunti ya Migori. Tunaomba maandamano imeiduia katika sheria zetu, imekubalika, lakini maandamano ya amani na kuombea wengine na kusema yale ambayo inawafinya katika moyo, na si maandamano yale ambayo kuharibu mali za watu.
Athari ambayo kwamba tulipata ni kwamba wamama walipigwa. Kuna vijana ambao kwamba walitokeza, walikuwa naingia kwenye maduka za watu na kuchukua vitu na kuchukua mali yao na kuharibu mali zao. Bila shaka hiyo si mwenendo mzuri. Maandamano ikiitishwa ni kwamba mnakwenda barabarani, mnaandamana kwa njia ambayo kwamba ni ya amani.
This comes few days after Raila Odinga called for nationwide demonstrations to force the government to lower the cost of living, among other demands.
Utawala ya dhuluma na kimabavu tulizika, iko ndani ya kaburi, huwezi kufufusha, tutasimama imara.
Raila also announced Monday 20th March a public holiday.
Msafara ambao Raila Amolo Odinga na wazalendo wameanza.
For Maisha Prime News, Maisha Television, I'm Simbi Faith.
Parents and teachers have expressed concern over the safety of learners on Monday when they are scheduled to report back from the half-term break, as it coincides with demonstration called by the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. Learners started their half-term break yesterday, but with the looming confrontations, parents are pleading with President William Ruto and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga to dialogue to avert a crisis. Parents and teachers have expressed concern over the safety of learners on Monday 20th, 2023, when they are scheduled to report back to school from the half-term break, as it coincides with the demonstrations called by the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance.
Kwa majina naitwa Jen Barasa na mimi ni mzazi katika shule ya Tigoi Girls. Kuhusu maandamano ya Monday na ila kama watoto wataenda shule ama hapana, mimi naona watoto waende shule kwa sababu walisema maandamano yatakuwa ya amani, na kama kutakuwa na jambo lolote ambalo halitaruhusu watoto kufika huko, tunaomba serikali pia waangalie sana, kwa sababu tumeruka sana katika miaka iliyopita ikachelewesha watoto wetu kwenda shule.
Learners started their half-term break on Thursday 16th of March, but with the looming confrontations, parents pleaded with President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga to dialogue to avert a crisis.
Tafadhali tunahitaji utulivu. Hata mambo hii wameitisha ya maandamano, tunaomba ya kwamba tafadhali sana, na hiyo ndio ombi letu ya kwamba kama kuna jambo lolote waja waweke nafasi nzuri ya kusemezana.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Kitui Wepuhuru. Mimi ni mkaaji wa Bungoma County. Funga vitu kama hii, weka sheria ya kulinda watu. Wewe ndio unalinda katiba ya Kenya, unalinda maisha ya Wakenya, unalinda kila kitu ya Wakenya. Mtu mwenye hana mwelekeo kama huyo asisumbue sisi, sababu haka anasumbua hata watoto. Hata ona siku ya watoto kufungua ndio siku yeye haka anaenda kufanya demonstration. Ama umwambie afanye hiyo demonstration baada ya wiki mbili kama watoto wamekaa shuleni wamesoea.
Mr. Odinga has called for nationwide demonstrations to force the government to lower the cost of living, among other demands.
The subsidies must be restored, the cost of basic commodities and taxes must come down.
Mimi ni msasi, ningeonelea kwamba baba na hii mambo yake postponed until wanafunzi warudi shule kwanza, ndio mambo ya maandamano iendelee.
Kitu ya kwanza, niko na mtoto mmoja, siwezi ruhusu hata atoke nje ya mlango. Hiyo demonstration wanasema itakuwa peaceful, of which haitakuwa peaceful. Watoto wetu, unajua sisi ni raia, sisi ni wa Kenya, tunajijua, of which haitakuwa safe kwa watoto wetu. So baba, kwa heshima yenye tunakupatia kama baba, tunaomba utulie kwanza, urelax, watoto warudi shule, then we'll have the demonstration na ikuwe peaceful.
Further, they expressed fear that transportation to various parts of the country might be affected on Monday, with learners who have to travel long distances likely to be caught up in the chaos.
Sasa mimi nashindwa, watoto watarudi aje shule na kuna maandamano, sika kutakuwa na magari. Sasa sijui serikali itasaidia aje, ama kama baba ikiwezekana anasairisha aleta hiyo mande ingine ndio watoto wakuwa wamerudi shule. Unajua maisha ya watoto ndio viongozi wa kesho, na lazima sisi tuchali watoto wetu. Hatutaki watoto wakutane na watu wenye wako kwa demonstration ya tarehe 20 hiyo.
Mimi kama mzazi pia siwezi kukubali mtoto wangu aende shule na huko katikati hapatikane na shida. Naomba pia serikali ituangalilie, kwa sababu hii ni nchi moja. Wananchi wote, sisi wote tunasikia pressure maybe ya maisha ya nini. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri watuelekeze vizuri ili shule ama wanafunzi wasiumie njiani.
Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Kupet Chairperson Omboko Milemba called for the postponement of the reopening to Wednesday 22nd of March 2023 to keep children out of the harm's way.
Siku hiyo itakuwa na mchafuko mwingi sana, na watoto kwa parapara kukimbia na masanduku na nini haitawezekana. Tunaomba President, kama unasikia, utusaidie ili hata usongeshe kwa hawa watoto siku 3 tuone mambo ya yenye umeruhusu ati demonstration ya Jumatatu itakuwa namna gani, ndipo sasa sisi tuachilie watoto waende shule.
However, Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General Collins Oyu said that changing the reporting date might be seen as supporting Mr. Odinga.
Na hii tamu imekuwa term 1 na wazazi wamejitahidi, wamelipa school fees. Kwa hivyo tukisema turuke itarudisha nyuma wanafunzi wetu. Number 2, school fees yetu itaenda bure. Number 3, vile walikuwa wamesema watarudisha term ikuwe vile ilikuwa kitambo, then inamaanisha tena tunaenda kuidisrupt, therefore haitakuwa vile walikuwa wamepanga na serikali.
For Maisha Prime News, Maisha Television, I'm Mesh Msembi. And as curtains close for the 11th summit of the Lake Region Economic Bloc Forum, a lot is achieved based on the expectations of key players in the region, as the summit has resolved to tackle major issues and problems facing the regions. A top priority in the resolution was given to the sugar sector, healthcare and climate mitigation. On the sugar sector, the summit through their chair, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the Kisumu Governor County, resolved a matter of issues including champion for establishing a publicly owned company to import and supply sugar whenever deficits arrive, with profits from the venture to be plowed back into the sugar sector.
To promote increased utilization of the future of the sugar industry in the Lake region. To promote increased utilization of byproducts from the sugar sector. 3, invest in an integrated industrial park of the Lake region anchored on the sugar industry. 4, champion for the establishment of a publicly owned company to import and supply sugar whenever deficits arise. Profit from this venture will be plowed back to the sugar sector. And 5, work with the national government to implement recommendations of the Sugar Task Force report that was presented to the President. LREP leaders will meet the President to discuss this matter. 6, urge the national government to consider fiscal policies and trade agreements that protect the sugar sector, which is a strategic economic venture. Sugar should be classified as food and not as a commodity. On the health sector, we appreciate that data is critical in healthcare transformation, hence establish an integrated health system that captures all data from entry to exit in the health system. 2, champion development of policies that prioritize primary health care with focus on increased resources and financing for community health services through support for training, equipping and payment for community health volunteers. 3, create a connected healthcare system where all facilities in the Lake region are linked and able to access data in real time for climate change in the Lake Victoria Basin. And results as follows. Recognize that climate change is real and a threat to food security and nutrition. 2, commit to invest in climate change adaptation and mitigation. Already all LREP counties have enacted climate change policies and other legislation to support response. We shall set aside 2% of our budgets for climate change activities. We shall invest in education infrastructure that is resilient to effects of climate change, including flooding. And finally, we shall develop a harmonized climate change policy to the Lake Region Economic Bloc.
Kenyans have been urged to embrace saving culture during their earlier age to avoid tough life after retirement. According to the Retirement Benefit Authority, only 25% of employed Kenyans save for retirement, which has resulted into many people languish into poverty. Speaking in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, the authority has said youths are the most affected, whereby most of them misused by living lavish life, forgetting that there is life after employment.
It's only 25% of people who are working who are saving for retirement, meaning around 75% of the working class are not saving for retirement, meaning they are likely to retire into poverty. And so we are here to encourage them, just to, to boomerang that message from the president that saving for retirement is very important.
Is a sensitization of members on their preparedness to retirement We realized that before then members were not very well prepared, and when they received their income, that proper usage of that income was very wanting, and therefore we have developed a retirement planning program which cuts across all age brackets, and it is very informative in terms of training members on planning for their retirement.
And seems like the journey that started with his late father Oginga Odinga, the son Raila Odinga is fast clenched on pursuing what he alleges as stolen victory. But where did all this begin, and how will it end? Bushebi Jr. looks into the journey of leadership of both Jaramogi Odinga Oginga and his son Raila Odinga in the first phase of presidents from Luo land.
I take the journey on the history lane to explore the philosophy, ideology, leadership and the cost paid by great leaders of the Luo nation. Here is the journey of Mzee Oginga Odinga and his son Raila Odinga. My name is Bushebi Jr.
The press must be a champion of the social, political and economic development of the people.
Nimekuacha siku nyingi kwa sababu wewe ni rafiki yangu. Kama si hivyo, wewe najua mimi ningefanya nini? Hapana, kazi yako kuniambia nitupe wapi. Mimi najua mwenyewe. Mimi najua mwenyewe. Labda wewe wasemao naweza kutupa wewe ndani ya manyani kuliko rafiki yangu.
They told me they've been trying to see Mzee for a long time. They couldn't. So they asked me what I could assist. And I flatly refused. And then they said something interesting. They said, now we come to you as a child. You have denied us. So maybe we just have to die. He told me, you know what they want to do. They want to bring Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And he has been getting money from communist countries to destabilize my government. There's money that was being paid to an account in Grady's bank. And I had known who it was. The signatories were high-ranking people in the government. And when I saw the account, I recognized it, and I had the account in my wallet myself. And I told this account is not Mzee Jaramogi's account. This account is so and so and so. And he said, good Lord. And he said, okay, I'll meet them. And we were in Mombasa. And Mzee told me, you go and tell your Jalus, including Odinga, I'll see them on the 23rd of August now. I came up, and the 22nd night, that's when Mama Ngina called me. I said, Mzee had passed away.
He was detained for 18 months until the government made the decision to free him on 27th March in 1971. He consigned to political limbo until after Kenyatta's death in August 1978. Odinga attempted to register a political party in 1982, but when Attorney General Charles Njonjo amended the constitution which made Kenya a single-party state, his plans failed. Odinga remained vocal in his calling for democracy. In 1991, he founded the National Democratic Party, but the government refused to recognize it again and briefly jailed Oginga Odinga.
It should be a party of collective responsibility rather than a party of personalities.
After effective international protests, Oginga Odinga and 5 other opposition members formed the Forum for Restoration of Democracy, FORD. This was the core of the pro-democracy movement, changing Kenya's political landscape and opening up the political space in 1992. Kenyatta's successor Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi appointed Oginga Odinga as chairman of the Cotton Lint and Seed Marketing Board. He did not last long in the post, presumably because he was still outspoken against Kenyatta's policies. Following the failed coup of 1982 against Moi's government, the late Oginga Odinga was placed under house arrest in Kisumu. However, the formation of Ford triggered a chain of events that were to change Kenya's political landscape, culminating in ending KANU's 40 years in power, 8 years after Oginga Odinga's death.
Naimba sio wimbo ni maombi, nikiomba Mwenyezi Mungu aibariki Kenya yangu.
Odinga was polygamous and had 4 wives: Mary Juma, Gaudensia Adea, Susan Agik and Betty Adongo. With these wives, he had 17 children. Mary is the mother of Raila Odinga and Oburu Odinga. Mary died in 1984.
When my mother died, for example, my family sent me a telegram to inform me that my mother had passed on. And they kept this telegram for a long, they never gave it to me. But of course, a friend of mine who was also detained had received the information. But then he had communicated with a way of underground communication. So I had known. Now when this askari came to eventually now break the news to me, at first I was looking at my reaction, if I would be shocked, because otherwise we'd know that somebody had told me. So when I came to tell me, I artificially burst into tears, but they were telling me 3 months later, yet they received the telegram immediately that my mother passed on.
In an era of unrelenting human rights abuse by the Kenyan government, Raila Odinga was placed under house arrest for 7 months after evidence seemed to implicate him along with his late father Oginga Odinga for collaborating with the plotters of a failed coup attempt against President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi in 1982. Hundreds of Kenyan civilians and thousands of rebel soldiers died in the coup. Several foreigners also lost their lives. Odinga was later charged with treason and detained without trial for 6 years.
When I was arrested, I was first charged with treason, meaning that it is a charge that carries a mandatory death sentence. So you walk here with a red C on your chest, wearing those prison captolas. Those days they didn't have trousers. I was basically on death row. I was on death row. That place, people were not allowed to come and see you. You are isolated from the rest of other remandees, and you are kept in the cells for 23 hours out of 24. You're only allowed out for half a quarter of an hour in the morning, again half an hour at lunch, and again a quarter of an hour again in the afternoon. So most of the times you are in the cells, and you're not receiving any visitors.
Tabu zangu shida zangu ziangalie Kenya yangu. Tabu zangu shida zangu ziangalie Kenya yangu. Ewe Kenya inji yangu, ewe Kenya baba yangu, ewe Kenya mama yangu, sitakuacha milele. Matajiri masikini yo, sisi zote binadamu.
A biography released 14 years later in the July of 2006 apparently with Odinga's approval, indicated that Odinga was far more involved in the attempted coup than he had previously admitted.
Alright, thank you so much Bushebi Jr. for this, and stay tuned for the second part of the same after the break.
To get yanayoshangaza as your skiza tune, send 570-6820 to 811.
Three young people who scored more than 350 marks from poor families in Lamu County.
They said it is a time to put political differences aside.
The CS further lauded the efforts of police officers in the last 100 days.
The leaders affirmed their party has a close relationship with the president.
This is the place where it all happened. The stories that continue to change our country.
And at present we have got one student who is now at a BBC World Service working.
These are the faces we see.
Business studies.
Is Madam Susi Masaba.
Walter Usolo, Shem Milembo.
The voices we hear.
Glad you're tuned in. You're still tuned in to Maisha TV. Now every day here on Maisha Prime News, we air feature from different schools across the country
that have revolutionized societies through education. This is who we are. One channel, one bulletin. Masomo News Live. Join us every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for Masomo News Live, exclusive to Maisha TV.
Turbo School Eldoret is an outstanding boys' high school ideal for learning. Located in a quiet and serene environment in Turbo Town, Uasin Gishu County, the school aims to produce highly qualified students who will readily be admitted to world-class high institutions of learning and graduate into outstanding citizens of integrity. We offer quality education in conformity with the Ministry of Education standards and guidelines. Our tutors are highly qualified and experienced. Founded and grounded on Christian values, discipline is one of our fundamental values. The school registered exemplary performance in 2022 KCSE examinations with a mean of 9.87. We boast of the state-of-the-art facilities such as spacious classrooms, well-equipped library, science and computer laboratories, and dining hall. Do you want to start building your prosperous future today? 2023 intake for Form 1-2 is on. Call us on 0701 453 179, 0701 453 179, or send us an email to tarboschool@gmail.com. Our postal address is PO Box 43 3106, or visit our school along the Eldoret Bungoma Highway. Tarbo School Eldoret, born to lead. Bushangala Technical Training Institute wishes to inform students who have completed their studies and are scheduled to graduate to visit the institution for clearance.
We would wish to hold a graduation. We are planning to hold a graduation for our students who have completed, but we would like to make an appeal that they come to college to do clearance so that they are ready for the graduation.
Welcome back. Well, it's a stage well set for the continuation of the second part of Presidents from Luoland, a feature journey that looks at the history of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and his son Raila Amolo Odinga.
The journey of Mzee Oginga Odinga and his son Raila Odinga. My name is Bushebi Jr. After its publication, some members of parliament in Kenya called for Odinga to be arrested and charged, but the statute of limitations had already passed, and since the information was contained in the biography, did not amount to an open confession on his part. Among some of his most painful experiences was when his mother died in 1984, but the prison wardens took 2 months to inform him of her death. He was released on 6th February 1988, only to be rearrested in September 1988 for his pro-democracy and human rights agitation at a time when the country continued to descend deep into the throes of poor governance.
Akili zangu nguvu zangu nimeziweka mbele yako, bibi yangu na watoto nimewaweka mbele yako.
His encounters with the authoritarian government generated an aura of intrigue about him, and it was probably due to this that his political followers christened him Agwambo, Luo for the mystery or unpredictable, or Jacom, meaning chairman. Odinga was released on 12th June in 1989, only to be incarcerated again on 5th July 1990, together with Kenneth Matiba and former Nairobi Mayor Charles Rubia, multi-party system and human rights crusaders. Odinga was finally released on 21st June in 1991, and in October, he fled the country to Norway amid indications that the increasingly corrupt Kenyan government was attempting to assassinate him without success. At the time of Odinga's departure to Norway, the Forum for the Restoration for Democracy (FORD), a movement formed to agitate for the return of multi-party democracy to Kenya, was newly formed. In February 1992, Odinga returned to join FORD, then led by his father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. He was elected vice chairman of the General Purposes Committee of the party. In the months running up to the 1992 general election, FORD split into FORD Kenya, led by Odinga's father Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and FORD Asili, led by Kenneth Matiba. Odinga became FORD Kenya's deputy director of elections. Odinga won the Lang'ata constituency parliamentary seat, previously held by Philip Liki of Kanu. Odinga became the second father of multi-party democracy in Kenya after Kenneth Matiba. When Jaramogi Oginga Odinga died in January 1994 and Michael Wamalwa Kijana succeeded him as FORD Kenya chairman, Odinga challenged him for the party leadership. The elections were marred by controversy, after which Odinga resigned from FORD Kenya to join the National Development Party (NDP).
The knack is still there. We'll have another go at another election.
Wamalwa Kijana is no longer chairman of FORD Kenya.
In his first bid for the presidency in the 1997 general election, Odinga finished third after President Moi, the incumbent, and Democratic Party candidate Mwai Kibaki, but he, however, retained his position as the Lang'ata Member of Parliament. In a surprise move, Odinga decided to support Moi, his arch-enemy, even entering into a political merger between his party NDP and Moi's much-hated KANU party, which many Kenyans likened to the yoke of oppression. The merger was called New KANU. Previous admirers of Odinga now saw him as a sellout to a cause he had once championed by closing ranks with the despot. He accepted a position in Moi's cabinet as energy minister, serving from June 2001 to 2002 during Moi's final term. In the subsequent KANU elections held later that year, he was elected the party's Secretary General, replacing Joseph Kamoso. It was apparent to many that Odinga hoped to ascend to the presidency through KANU and with Moi's support. In 2002, much to the chagrin of Odinga and many other hopefuls in the party, Moi endorsed the young Uhuru Kenyatta, son of Kenya's first President Jomo Kenyatta, but a relative newcomer in politics, to be his successor. Moi publicly asked Odinga and others to support Uhuru as well.
Na huyu ndiye Uhuru
Kenya weni mama yangu, wacha wao waporomoke, wacha wao waporomoke. Viongozi wetu tuombeni, viongozi wetu tuombeni, wacha wao waporomoke, wacha wao waporomoke, wananchi.
This was taken as an affront by many of the party loyalists who felt they were being asked to make way for a newcomer who, unlike them, had done little to build the party. Odinga and other KANU members, including Kalonzo Musyoka, George Saitoti and Joseph Kamoso, opposed this step, arguing that the then 38-year-old Uhuru Kenyatta was politically inexperienced and lacked the leadership qualities needed to govern. Moi stood his ground, maintaining that the country's leadership needed to pass to the younger generation. Dissent ran through the party, with some members openly disagreeing with Moi, despite his reputation as an autocrat. It was then that the Rainbow Movement was founded, comprising disgruntled KANU members who exited KANU. The exodus, led by Odinga, saw most big names fleeing the party.
Wasundu yako ngoja, wasundu akawatoka, sio?
Kwanza Mheshimiwa Mudi Awori, Mheshimiwa William Olentimama, Mheshimiwa Dr. Du Awiti, Mheshimiwa Orua Ojode, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, na Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. Tulisema sisi hatungoji kupigwa kalama, sisi tunatoka, chukua kazi yako na uende naye.
Moi was left with his hand-picked successor, almost alone with the party reduced to an empty shell with poor electoral prospects. I take the journey on the history lane to explore the philosophy, ideology, leadership and the cost paid by great leaders of the Luo nation. Here is the journey of Mzee Oginga Odinga and his son Raila Odinga. My name is Bushebi Jr.
The press must be a champion of the social, political and economic development of the people. It must thus seek to report on the efforts of the people to bring about these developments.